Hearing Boone Pickens talk about that he believes this wind energy development can really be a catalyst to revitalize rural areas in the Midwest. Do you see that for Oklahoma?
Oh, I sure do. I had a chance to go hear him actually in McAllister a month or so ago, and his proposal makes a lot of sense. We have an abundant resource in Oklahoma. We can tell it on a day like today, but it's going to be good for all of Oklahoma. But what we need to do is develop the transmission, because where the wind centers are is usually where the load centers or the need centers are not. So it's usually in rural areas, and the key is trying to build those highways to get the electrons to the people that use the most electricity.
And that's really, really expensive.
It is really expensive, but wind resource is clean, and other states are going to need it. They're going to have renewable portfolio standards. There could be even a national renewable portfolio standard where the federal government comes in and says, I mean, this is all prospective and possible. I'm not sure if it's going to happen just yet, but where the federal government comes in and says, you look, states, you have to have a certain amount of your wind generation or a certain amount of your generation portfolio being renewables, and that's wind and solar. And so there's a lot of positives to wind. The transmission is something we're going to have to work out. And also, on some days when you need electricity the most, when you need to generate the most, the wind doesn't blow. So it's not considered base load like natural gas and coal and nuclear.
Texas already has that minimum standard, which is one of the reasons why they've jumped so far out ahead, they say, in developing wind energy. Does Oklahoma need that?
No, I'm not sure Oklahoma needs that, really. I mean, when I took office in 2003, Oklahoma wasn't in the top 10 in wind generation, and I am a member of the Southwest Power Pool Regional State Committee, where elected officials sit in as an advisory committee to the transmission organization that serves this region, and all those experts say that Oklahoma is going to lead the nation in wind generation by the year 2018.
Because?
Because it's abundant. And we're going to figure out a way to get the transmission to the wind resource.
Mm-hmm. So what is the state doing right now to try to encourage this industry to develop here?
Well, we had a big case a few years ago that had to do with an expansion of a coal plant, and that was turned down, not because it was coal versus natural gas, for instance, but because they wanted to put it in rate base beforehand and make the ratepayers pay for the coal plant. And so the companies have decided to refocus their energies or refocus themselves onto wind. And so the companies, and through commission encouragement, have decided to put their chips on the table for wind.
Where do you see Oklahoma in 10 years when it comes to this kind of wind energy?
Well, I see Oklahoma, when it comes to wind generation, by the year 2018, leading the nation with the most wind produced by any state, and that'll be quite an accomplishment. We need to lead the nation in several energy categories. We're second in natural gas, we're fifth in oil, and wind will be number one in about 10 years. So Oklahoma will continue to be an energy leader for the United States.
I know there are a lot of these projects on the drawing board. Do you think there's more going on than people even realize right now in our state?
Well, I think there are a lot of projects, but you just can't build a wind farm if you can't get it anywhere. So the key is going to be the line that's going to be going from Oklahoma City to Woodward, and then Woodward on to Guyman, and then we can spread it out and serve our load, and then send that the abundance or the surplus wind to the other states that don't have wind and don't have the solar. So it's going to be good. We'll make sure, though, at the commission that Oklahomans only pay for their fair share and let the other states subsidize us for our abundant resource, so it comes back to benefit our ratepayers.
How do you go about doing that? That sounds really complicated.
Well, that's what we're doing right now, and it is very complicated. It is extremely complicated in the Southwest Power Pool, trying to figure that out, who pays for what.
So that would be, so really all this is the huge sticking point right now is the cost of the transmission lines, who's going to pay for it and where they're going to go.
Exactly. And the fact that wind is not necessarily base load. Those are all challenges, and we're getting that worked out, and we're going to make sure that Oklahoma's interests are protected, and that Oklahoma ratepayers only pay their fair share.
Could you see this transforming rural areas like out in the Panhandle?
Oh, I do. I think so. And I've been out there and talk to farmers and ranchers and people that are landowners and even business people, barbershops in Guyman, Oklahoma. They know it's going to be good. It's like natural gas or an oil well. It'll be mailbox money for these people that have this wind resource, and that'll be good for schools, and that's going to be good for roads, and that's going to be good for everybody.
A rising tide.
A rising tide lifts all boats. I chaired a task force, as a matter of fact, this past legislative session where we were trying to talk about transmission for renewables, and the legislature's been very helpful. We're just trying trying to guide this so that the market can take over and fill that void and make sure that Oklahoma leads the nation in wind generation.
It's that balance, isn't it? You want the private industry to do it, but you want the government support. And
well, we just want to keep it in the curbs. We want to make sure that ratepayers are protected, but that people make this, or that this is a good place for people to make this huge investment. Oklahoma being that place for the huge investment. That's good for everybody too.